Imagine for a moment stumbling upon a secret so surreal it shakes the very foundation of everything you thought you knew about your life, your love, and fate itself. That's exactly what happened to me when I found my wife's old diary hidden away in the back of a dusty closet. But here's the twist that will make you question everything about time and destiny. Inside those worn pages, she had written down the exact date of our wedding day, months, maybe even years before we ever met. The day, the month, the year. All predicted, as if she was somehow looking into the future, waiting for the moment our lives would collide. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? Is it just a crazy coincidence? Or something far more mysterious? That's the puzzle I've been trying to solve ever since I cracked open that diary, and today, I want to take you deep into the heart of this unbelievable story. Because what I uncovered didn't just change how I see my wife or our relationship, but it made me question the very nature of time, choice, and destiny. Right from the start, I want you to feel exactly what I felt that day, the mix of shock, disbelief, and growing curiosity that kept me hooked for hours. I want you to imagine holding that diary in your hands, reading words that seemed to predict your future, words that could change everything you thought was random or planned. You're not just a bystander here. I want you to join me in piecing this mystery together. Because the answer to this story is why you're here, watching this video right now. And here's the thing. This isn't just some fantasy or a script pulled from a movie. It's real, raw, and deeply personal. As I share every detail, every thought, and every moment of confusion and wonder, I want you to feel connected, like you're sitting right beside me, sharing the secret. Because stories like this, about love, fate, and unexplainable events, resonate with something deep inside all of us. Maybe you've experienced moments where reality seemed to bend or where things aligned so perfectly they couldn't be random. If you have, you're going to understand what I'm about to tell you. Before I go any further, let me introduce the key players in this story. My wife, the woman whose diary I found, is not just my partner. She's the most grounded, logical person I know. Skeptical about the supernatural or psychic stuff, she's the type who laughs off horoscopes and destiny talk. That's why this diary shook me even more, because it felt so unlike her. And me? I'm an ordinary guy, just like many of you watching, trying to live a normal life, believing in hard work and making things happen. But this diary forced me to consider that maybe there's more to our story than just chance and choice. Now, when I say the diary predicted our wedding day, I don't mean she wrote, "I will marry / my name on this date." No, it was more cryptic, poetic, almost like a riddle that only makes sense when you know what to look for. And that's where this mystery gets deeper, because this wasn't the only prediction in that diary. There were pages filled with hints, moments from the past and future, and reflections that feel like a bridge between what was and what's coming. I know you might be skeptical, and honestly, so was I. Finding this diary was like opening a Pandora's box. At first, I thought it was a coincidence or maybe something planted as a joke. But as I kept reading, I realized there was a pattern, a story being told across time. It's the kind of thing that grips you and won't let go, the kind of story that begs for answers and refuses to be ignored. So, why am I sharing this with you? Because this isn't just about me or my wife. It's about a bigger question we all wrestle with. How much of our lives are truly in our hands, and how much is written in the stars, waiting to be discovered? This story challenges everything we think about fate and free will, and I want you to be part of this journey to uncover the truth. Over the next several minutes, I'll take you through the entire experience, from the moment I found that diary to the sleepless nights trying to decode its secrets, to the conversations with my wife that revealed more questions than answers. I'll share the emotions, the doubts, and the moments of awe that kept me up at night. Because this isn't just a story to hear, it's one to feel, to question, and maybe to believe in. And here's a promise. By the time you finish watching this video, you'll understand why this diary isn't just a collection of memories. It's a key to a mystery that touches on everything we think we know about love, destiny, and time itself. You'll see why this story has haunted me and why I had to share it with you. So, if you're ready to step into this mystery with me, to explore a story that blurs the lines between past and future, and to uncover a secret that was written long before we ever said, I do. Then keep watching. Because the answer you came here for, the reason this diary exists and why it predicted our wedding day, is coming up next. But before I reveal what's inside those pages, let me tell you about the day I found the diary. It was an ordinary afternoon, the kind you wouldn't expect to change your life. My wife and I were cleaning out the attic, trying to declutter and make space. She was upstairs, and I was digging through an old chest when something caught my eye. Tucked away beneath a pile of forgotten letters and faded photographs was a small leather-bound book, worn and fragile. The cover had no name, just a delicate floral pattern and the word diary faintly embossed. Curiosity took over, and I flipped it open. What I saw inside was a time capsule of thoughts, dreams, fears, and memories, written in her handwriting. But the strangest thing was the dates on the pages. They spanned years, even before we met. And as I turned to one particular entry, I froze. The words described a wedding, a date, and a feeling so vivid it was like she was there already. I remember sitting down, heart pounding, trying to understand how this was possible. How could she have written this before we even knew each other? Was this some sort of coincidence, or was there something deeper at play? That's what I'm going to unpack in this video. We're going to dive into that diary together. We'll explore every clue, every hint, and every moment that might explain how the future found its way into the past. And as we go, I want you to think about your own experiences with fate and coincidence. Have you ever felt like something was meant to be? Like the universe was sending you a message just when you needed it? This story is about more than just a diary. It's about how love can transcend time, how our lives might be connected in ways we don't understand yet, and how sometimes the past holds secrets about the future that only reveal themselves when we're ready to see them. I'm on it. Here's the continuation of your story introduction, diving deeper into the mystery with more context, relationship dynamics, and subtle hints to keep the audience hooked. The tone remains suspenseful and layered with uncertainty, perfect for your US YouTube viewers searching for mystery, love, and unexplained phenomena content. In the weeks leading up to that moment in the attic, life felt pretty normal, almost mundane. My days were packed with work deadlines and errands, and my evenings were mostly quiet, spent with my wife watching TV or planning little weekend getaways. But even in that calm routine, I'd started noticing tiny, odd things about her behavior that I hadn't before. Little moments where she'd stare off into space, like her mind was somewhere far away, or times when she'd suddenly become defensive about sharing memories from her past. At first, I shrugged it off as stress or just the normal ebb and flow of any relationship. But looking back now, those moments feel like pieces of a puzzle I wasn't ready to see. Our relationship had always been straightforward. We met through mutual friends about 2 years ago, clicked instantly, and fell in love fast. But despite the easy connection, there was this layer beneath the surface that I could never quite put my finger on. It was like she was holding something back, or maybe protecting herself from a truth that didn't want to be uncovered. And when I found that diary, it was like opening a door into a room filled with secrets, some that belonged to her past, and some that seemed to reach into a future I never imagined. Before we got married, we had one argument that sticks out in my mind, not because it was big or explosive, but because it was about something strange she said. She mentioned feeling like she had already lived this moment before, like some scenes in our life together were déjà vu. I thought she was joking or just being poetic, but now, after the diary, those words echo in my mind with new meaning. What if she wasn't just daydreaming but trying to tell me something she didn't fully understand herself? The diary itself was filled with entries about her hopes, fears, and dreams, but buried among the pages were cryptic references to people I'd never heard of and events that seemed disconnected from our shared life. Names of friends from her past, mentions of strange encounters, and vague allusions to times and places that didn't add up. It made me wonder, was she involved in something deeper before I met her? Or were these just figments of her imagination, creative writing to pass the time? And then there's me. I've been thinking a lot about my own life lately, my job, my friendships, and the choices that led me to her. Was I really as ordinary, as I believed? Or was there some unseen force nudging me toward this exact moment, to uncover this diary and unlock a story I never expected to be part of? I started digging into my own past, trying to connect I hadn't noticed before. Old friends who suddenly stopped calling, unexplained absences, strange coincidences that might have been more than just luck. As I pieced together these fragments, I realized that there are people around us who know more than they let on. Friends who ask questions with a hidden meaning, strangers who cross our paths at just the right, or wrong, time, and even family members who seem to guard their own secrets. Could someone have known about the diary? Could they have been waiting for me to find it? Or worse, could there be someone who wants to keep those secrets buried forever? I remember one particular afternoon when a close friend of mine dropped by unexpectedly. We had a casual chat, but the way he looked at me, almost like he was holding back something important, set off alarm bells in my mind. Later that night, I found myself replaying our conversation, searching for clues in his words. Was he just worried about me, or was there something else beneath the surface? This friend, someone I trusted completely, suddenly felt like part of the mystery, a possible red herring in a story I was desperate to unravel. Then there's the question of timing. The diary's predictions were so precise it's hard to dismiss them as mere coincidence. But how could she have known those dates? Some might say it's fate, others might suspect something darker, manipulation, or even someone feeding her information for reasons unknown. And the fact that we only discovered the diary now, right before our wedding, feels like more than just chance. It's as if this secret was waiting for the perfect moment to come to light, dragging us both into a story that refuses to stay hidden. All these questions swirl around me every day, like a fog that won't lift. I find myself scanning the faces of people I meet, wondering if they're part of this puzzle, friends, co-workers, even strangers. Anyone who might hold a piece of the truth or be guarding a lie. I've started noticing patterns in our conversations, small slips that hint at knowledge they shouldn't have. And with each new discovery, the tension grows, and so does my feeling that we're not just living an ordinary life, but are caught in something much bigger. It's strange, isn't it, how a single object, a dusty old diary, can change everything? How it can turn your world upside down and make you question the very fabric of reality. I've spent nights awake, flipping through those pages again and again, trying to make sense of the cryptic entries and symbols, trying to understand what they mean for our future. The diary is like a map to a hidden story, but it's written in riddles that keep slipping through my fingers. And yet, there's something strangely comforting about the mystery. Like it's a challenge sent just for us, a secret waiting to be uncovered if only we dare to look closely enough. I've learned to listen more carefully now, to the silence between words, the pauses in conversations, and the subtle glances exchanged in passing. Because in those moments lie clues, threads of a larger narrative I'm only beginning to understand. I won't lie, this has been overwhelming. At times, I've wanted to put the diary away and pretend none of it ever happened. But every time I try, the pull is too strong. It's as if the diary has become a living part of our story, something that won't let me forget that our lives are intertwined with a mystery far beyond the ordinary. So, as you watch this video, I want you to keep asking the questions with me. Who really wrote those words? How could she have known? And what does it all mean for us, for our love, our future, and the choices we think we make every day? Keep an eye out for the clues I share because this story is layered and the truth hides beneath the surface. There are more twists ahead, and believe me, the next revelations will make you question everything you thought you knew about fate, love, and the power of prediction. This isn't just a story about a diary. It's about how the past and future collide, how people we trust might be keeping secrets, and how sometimes the answers we seek are wrapped in riddles meant only for those brave enough to find them. As I dug deeper into the pages of that diary, determined to unravel its secrets, the world around me seemed to shift in ways I couldn't explain. It started subtly, almost like a shadow stretching across my life. Little things out of place, conversations that abruptly stopped when I walked into the room, and a growing sense that I was being watched. Then, just when I thought I was making progress, something happened that stopped me dead in my tracks. A key piece of the puzzle vanished. The diary's most cryptic entry, the one that pointed directly to a location tied to our past, disappeared without a trace. One moment it was there, staring back at me with its faded ink and haunting words, and the next, it was gone, as if someone didn't want me to find out what it said. The timing of that disappearance felt too deliberate to be coincidence. It was as if the diary itself was fighting to keep its secrets buried, or worse, that someone close to me was desperate to keep me from digging deeper. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and frustration as I frantically searched the room, retracing every step, but nothing turned up. The pages were intact, except for that crucial piece of evidence, wiped clean or carefully removed. I couldn't tell which. It was a moment that made everything real, a stark reminder that uncovering the truth wasn't just an intellectual challenge, but something far more dangerous. Then came the warning, not in the form of a letter or a phone call, but face-to-face, in a way I couldn't ignore. One evening, just as the sun was dipping below the horizon, a shadowy figure appeared at my doorstep. Someone I thought I could trust, a longtime friend who suddenly seemed like a stranger with eyes full of unease and words heavy with caution. They didn't want to talk openly, just enough to make their message clear. Stop.
Stop digging.
Stop asking questions. It wasn't a threat exactly, but a chilling plea that left me wondering what kind of trouble I was getting into. That night, as I lay awake, the pieces started to come together in a way I hadn't expected. There was a secret in my wife's past, something buried so deep that even she didn't seem to want to confront it. Flickers of memories she avoided, phone calls she didn't want to explain, and a past event she never mentioned until a rare slip of the tongue hinted at a hidden betrayal. Someone from her life before me had left a mark, a wound that still bled beneath the surface, and it was tied to the diary in ways I was only beginning to understand. And then there was the friend who warned me, the ally I once considered a confidant, but who now stood in the shadows of suspicion. Their sudden hesitation, the way they danced around the truth, and the vague answers made me question everything I believed about loyalty and trust. Was this person protecting me or protecting themselves? Were they involved in the mystery I was trying to solve, or simply caught in the crossfire of a story bigger than any of us? The tension in my life grew, twisting tighter every day. Every attempt to learn more was met with silence, disappearance, or veiled warnings. I felt like I was trapped in a web, pulled from every direction by invisible forces determined to keep the diary's secrets locked away. The more I searched, the more the past seemed to fight back, refusing to be uncovered without a price. And just when I thought I was close to breaking through, another twist hit me like a thunderclap. An unexpected message slipped under my door, and signed but unmistakably urgent. It contained a single line: "Some truths aren't meant to be found." The handwriting was unfamiliar, but the weight of the words settled heavily on my chest. Was it a final warning? Or a cry for help from someone caught in the same darkness I was diving into? I sat there, the diary open on my lap, the room silent except for the ticking clock marking time slipping away. The question hung in the air. How far was I willing to go for the truth? And more importantly, what would happen if I crossed the line that someone so desperately wanted me to respect? This story isn't just about a diary or a prediction anymore. It's about trust, betrayal, and the invisible forces that shape our lives in ways we don't always understand. As I take you further into this journey, prepare for more surprises, more shadows creeping into the light, and a mystery that refuses to let go. The diary's secrets are still out there, waiting to be revealed, but the path ahead is anything but clear. And now, with the disappearance of that key entry, the warnings from a friend turned stranger, and the whispers of a hidden past, I find myself at a crossroads where every answer feels like it brings me closer to danger. Just when I thought the layers of this mystery couldn't get any thicker, the story took an unexpected turn that threw everything into chaos. It wasn't just me being pulled deeper into the secrets of that diary. Someone else close to me started receiving messages too, similar warnings that hinted at a dangerous game unfolding around us. My sister, who had been completely outside this whole tangled web until now, reached out with a trembling voice one evening, telling me she found a cryptic note slipped under her door, almost identical to the one I'd gotten. The message was different but just as chilling. Look closer or lose everything. This wasn't coincidence. It was a signal that whatever we were dealing with was bigger, more dangerous, and targeting the people we cared about. That moment shifted everything. Suddenly, the mystery wasn't confined to the diary or my wife's hidden past. It was spreading, infecting our closest circle and threatening to unravel the fragile reality we'd built. I found myself scrambling to protect my sister while still trying to piece together what the diary was really hiding. And just when I thought I had a handle on the clues, new evidence surfaced that directly contradicted everything I'd believed. I came across a set of old photographs hidden in a box that had never been opened before, pictures of my wife with a man I didn't recognize, dated years before she met me. But here's the twist. The man bore an uncanny resemblance to me, the same eyes, the same smile, almost like a shadow version of myself. It was like a puzzle piece that didn't fit anywhere but refused to be ignored. This revelation threw my understanding of the entire story into disarray. Who was this man, and why did he look so much like me? Was he part of the past my wife had tried to hide, or a clue to something even stranger? The more I stared at those photographs, the more the boundaries between truth and deception blurred. People I trusted started to seem like actors playing a part in a drama far more sinister than I could have imagined. Friends who once felt like allies became suspects, their casual smiles masking agendas I could no longer decipher. Even my wife's reactions to the photos, a flicker of fear, a quick change of subject, told me that I was peeling back layers best left untouched. The tension in my life escalated as I struggled to connect these threads without losing myself in the process. I began noticing things that didn't add up, small discrepancies in stories, forgotten conversations that suddenly took on new meaning, and the eerie feeling that I was being manipulated from all sides. Conversations with my wife grew strained, weighted by unspoken truths and half-hidden emotions. It was like we were both caught in a game where the rules kept changing, and no one could say who was really holding the cards. Meanwhile, the messages kept coming, not just to me or my sister, but to others around us. Each one more cryptic than the last, each one threatening to expose a truth that some desperately wanted to keep buried. It was clear that whoever was behind this was watching our every move, orchestrating a shadow play that had been in motion long before I even found that diary. The stakes felt impossibly high, not just for me or my wife, but for everyone connected to this tangled story. In this swirling fog of suspicion, I found myself questioning everything and everyone. Was my wife hiding something from me? Was my sister in danger because she stumbled onto the wrong secret? And what about that mysterious man in the photographs? Was he a ghost from the past or a clue to a future I hadn't imagined? Every answer seemed to raise more questions, pulling me deeper into a labyrinth where trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. The line between friend and foe blurred, and I realized I couldn't rely on anyone to guide me through this. The diary, the messages, the photos, they were all pieces of a puzzle that refused to be solved, and with every new revelation, the picture grew darker and more complex. It was no longer just about a wedding date written in a diary. It was about uncovering a truth that threatened to rewrite everything I thought I knew about my life, my wife, and the people around me. And as I stand here now, sharing this with you, the question remains, who can I trust when the past and present collide in ways that defy explanation? The answers lie buried somewhere in this growing maze of secrets, but the deeper I go, the more I realize that some truths come at a price, and the cost might be higher than I'm ready to pay. From the moment the diary's secrets started unraveling, my life felt like it was slipping through my fingers, but nothing prepared me for what came next, a darkness that wasn't just metaphorical, but terrifyingly real. One evening, after a long day spent piecing together fragments of a puzzle that refused to fit, I noticed something chilling, a shadow lurking just beyond the corner of my vision. At first, I brushed it off as fatigue or paranoia, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger every day. I caught glimpses of someone unfamiliar outside my window, a silhouette blending into the night, always vanishing the moment I turned around. The unease crept into my bones, twisting my thoughts until I was questioning every sound, every knock, every unexpected silence. It was no longer just a mystery on paper. It was a dangerous game where my every move was being tracked and I was the target. Then the unthinkable happened. My sister, who had been quietly supporting me through this storm, disappeared without a trace. One moment she was there, sharing her fears and trying to make sense of the cryptic messages, and the next, she was gone. No calls, no texts, no clues. Just an empty space where her presence had been a lifeline. The police were involved, but the trail was cold from the start, as if she had been erased from existence. The helplessness that flooded over me was suffocating, a reminder that whatever forces were at work here didn't just want to keep secrets hidden. They wanted to control the story completely, silencing anyone who got too close. I was drowning in a sea of questions with no shore in sight. Who had taken her? Was it connected to the diary? Were they sending me a message, a warning that I should stop? The weight of fear pressed down on me like a physical force, and the line between reality and paranoia blurred. Every stranger felt like a threat, every friend's glance a hidden accusation. I questioned my own sanity as sleepless nights turned into nightmares filled with shadowy figures and whispered threats. What had I stumbled into? And how far would they go to keep me silent? To make matters worse, a direct threat arrived. An unmarked envelope slipped through my mail slot, containing nothing but a single, stark phrase scrawled in hurried handwriting. "Stop now or lose everything." The words felt like ice on my skin, a chilling confirmation that I was in serious danger. It wasn't just a warning, it was a promise, and it shattered any illusion I had left of safety or control. My home, once a sanctuary, now felt like a trap, a cage where secrets lurked behind every door and shadows waited in every corner. In the silence of those long, lonely nights, I wrestled with a torrent of emotions: fear, anger, despair, and a desperate need for answers. The diary's predictions no longer felt like mere curiosities. They were threads pulling me deeper into a web of deception and danger. I thought I was prepared for this journey, but nothing could have readied me for the loneliness of not knowing who to trust, or the crushing reality that people I loved could be caught in the crossfire. My mind raced constantly, replaying every moment, every conversation, searching for clues I might have missed. Was my wife hiding more than the diary suggested? Could she be protecting me, or herself, from a past too dark to face? The photograph of the man who looked like me haunted my thoughts, a ghostly reminder that the truth might be far stranger than I dared imagine. The disappearance, the threats, the messages, all painted a picture of a conspiracy tangled with love and betrayal, and I was trapped in the middle with no map. I realized then that this wasn't just a story about a diary or a wedding date. It was a battle for survival in a world where every secret carried a price, and every answer brought new dangers. The urgency gripped me, a constant reminder that time was running out, not just for me, but for everyone I cared about. The question was no longer if I would uncover the truth, but whether I would live to see it. As I share this with you now, the mystery remains unsolved, but the stakes have never been higher. The shadows are closing in, and every step forward feels like walking on thin ice. I'm trapped between fear and hope, desperate for a breakthrough, but afraid of what it might reveal. This story isn't just mine, it's a warning, a puzzle that challenges everything we think we know about fate, trust, and the secrets that can destroy lives. Just when the weight of the threats and disappearances felt unbearable, and I was sinking deeper into a spiral of fear and confusion, the ground shifted beneath me in a way I never saw coming. The person I trusted most, my wife, became the center of a revelation that changed everything, flipping the entire story upside down. It wasn't just that she had hidden parts of her past or that the diary predicted our wedding day before we even met. No, it turned out the entire narrative I was clinging to was built on a foundation of half-truths and carefully crafted illusions. Late one night, in a moment filled with raw honesty and desperate need for clarity, she revealed something so shocking it made me question my own memories and the reality we shared. She told me the diary wasn't hers. It wasn't even about us. at least not in the way I thought. Instead, it belonged to someone else entirely, someone connected to her in ways I never imagined. Someone whose fate was tangled with mine in a way I'd been blind to all along. This person, she said, was her twin sister, someone she had never mentioned before, a secret she'd hidden not just from me, but from almost everyone. The diary, the predictions, the mysterious man who looked like me in the photographs. All of it was linked to this sister, a woman who disappeared years ago under suspicious circumstances. Suddenly, every piece of evidence took on a new meaning. The cryptic entries, the warnings, even the threats that had haunted me were part of a shadowed story far more complex and dangerous than a simple love story or a psychic prediction. My wife's silence wasn't just about protecting her own secrets. It was about protecting a secret so deep it threatened to destroy everything we thought we knew about our lives. I struggled to process this revelation. The woman I thought I knew, the partner who had shared dreams and fears, was also a keeper of a hidden identity, a guardian of a mystery that stretched far beyond our wedding day or the diary's pages. The idea that someone so close could live a double life, conceal such a monumental truth, made me question every moment we'd shared. Had our love been real, or had it been shadowed by a web of lies I was only now beginning to untangle? And then came the hardest part, realizing that the danger I was in wasn't just because of the diary or the warnings I'd received. It was because of this hidden sister and the people who'd been hunting her, or perhaps hunting the truth she carried for years. The threats, the disappearances, the messages weren't random acts of intimidation. They were calculated moves in a silent war that had dragged my family into its center without warning. The mysterious man in the photographs? He was tied to this sister's past too, a figure whose identity and motives were still shrouded in mystery, but whose presence now made chilling sense. I looked at my wife with new eyes filled with confusion, fear, but also a desperate need to understand. Her guarded nature, her moments of silence, her fear, they weren't signs of deception against me, but signs of a hidden burden she had carried alone for years. The diary was never meant to predict our future. It was a lifeline from a past she'd hoped to bury, but that was now clawing its way back into the present with a force neither of us could control. The story I thought I was telling, about fate, love, and psychic predictions, transformed into something darker and infinitely more complicated. It was a story about identity, loss, and a family fractured by secrets so deep they threatened to consume us all. And in that moment, I realized that the mystery wasn't about the diary's predictions or even about the wedding day. It was about uncovering the truth behind a disappearance, a betrayal, and a hidden past that refused to stay silent. The revelation about my wife's secret twin sister shattered what little calm I had left, but the storm it unleashed forced me into a crossroads that no one should ever have to face. Suddenly, the fragile threads holding my world together began to unravel faster than I could catch them, and I found myself staring down impossible choices that tore at every part of me. It wasn't just about uncovering the truth anymore, it was about deciding what I was willing to sacrifice for it. The pressure was suffocating, a constant weight that pressed on my chest day and night, blurring the line between love, loyalty, and survival. One night, with everything swirling in my mind, I confronted my wife, not as a partner, but as someone desperate for answers, needing to know who else was involved in this web of secrets and who I could trust. The conversation was raw, filled with hesitation and unspoken fears. She revealed that there were people from her past who had been watching us all along, shadowy figures connected to her sister's disappearance, and that those same people had made it clear they weren't afraid to go to extremes to keep those secrets hidden. And then, just as I thought the weight couldn't get heavier, she told me about the ultimatum she'd been given. Stay silent and keep walking the tightrope of lies, or dig deeper and risk losing everything, our safety, our future, maybe even our lives. The ultimatum wasn't just a vague threat. It was a devastating choice thrust upon me, a moment where I had to decide between protecting the people I loved or pursuing a truth that might destroy us all. My mind raced with the possibilities. To back away would mean living with the crushing burden of knowing the secrets, but never acting on them, while to push forward could mean shattering my family and putting everyone in danger. The stakes had never been higher, and the lines between right and wrong blurred into a gray mess of survival and sacrifice. I could see the toll this was taking on my wife, too. The fear behind her eyes, the tightness in her voice, and the way she seemed haunted by memories she couldn't share. Her silence was a fortress built to protect me and herself from a world that felt too cruel and dark to face head-on. But as much as I wanted to shield her, I realized that hiding from the truth only made the danger grow louder, closer, more inescapable. Every day brought new challenges, mysterious phone calls that ended in silence, strange cars parked outside our home, the feeling that our lives were under constant surveillance. Even the people closest to me felt like puzzles, their motives tangled in lies I couldn't unravel. Was someone watching from the shadows, ready to pull the strings at the worst moment? Was my wife's secret sister truly the key, or was there a deeper conspiracy that none of us could see yet? Caught in this whirlwind, I felt torn between the desperate need for answers and the primal instinct to protect my family at all costs. The emotional weight was crushing, making it harder to think clearly, harder to trust anyone, and harder to believe that there could be a way out of this nightmare without losing everything that mattered. Each choice felt like a gamble with no winning hand, and every step forward was shadowed by the fear of what might come next. As the tension mounted, I realized that the story I had entered was no longer about a diary or predictions. It was about survival, trust, and the impossible decisions that come when the past refuses to stay buried. And now, standing at this terrifying crossroads, I knew that whatever path I chose next would change the course of our lives forever. The walls were closing in faster than I ever imagined, and the truth I'd been chasing exploded into something so vast, so tangled. It shook me to my core. What started as a private puzzle, a diary, a secret sister, whispered threats, was only the surface of a sprawling conspiracy that reached far beyond me, beyond my wife, beyond anything I'd dared to think. Suddenly, I wasn't just a man hunting for answers. I was a pawn caught in a dangerous game played by forces with reach into places I never knew existed, people who had been manipulating the story for years, hiding in plain sight, wearing masks of friendship and loyalty. The betrayal hit like a freight train. The friend who warned me to stop digging? He wasn't just a bystander. He was a key player. Someone I'd trusted completely had been feeding information to the very people who wanted to keep the secret buried. The realization left me reeling, not just because of the deception itself, but because it meant the danger was closer than I'd thought. Every conversation, every gesture I once believed was genuine suddenly felt like part of a performance designed to mislead me. It wasn't just a conspiracy against my wife's family. It was against me, against us, against the future we were trying to build. And then there were the others, shadowy figures I started noticing everywhere, faces in crowds that lingered too long, voices on phone calls that froze the blood in my veins. They were watching, waiting, ready to move if I made one wrong step. The scale was staggering. This was no small vendetta or isolated secret. It was a network, a web woven through years of hidden alliances and betrayals, with stakes that stretched far beyond anything I had imagined. I realized that my wife's sister's disappearance was just one thread in a much larger fabric. A fabric soaked in lies, cover-ups, and a hunger for control that made the diary's cryptic predictions seem like child's play. Pressure crashed down on me, relentless and unforgiving. The clock was ticking louder with every moment, and I felt the noose tightening around us all. I had to decide, trust no one and fight alone, or risk trusting someone else and potentially handing the keys to those who wanted us silenced forever. The emotional weight was unbearable. Every choice felt like a knife twisting deeper, threatening to shatter what little hope I had left. But the alternative was worse: ignorance, silence, and letting the shadows win. As the pieces snapped into place, the stakes became painfully clear. This was bigger than a diary, bigger than family secrets. It was a battle for truth, survival, and justice against a powerful force willing to destroy anyone who stood in its way. The danger was real, immediate and all-consuming, and the line between friend and foe blurred into nothingness. In this high-stakes game, every moment counted, and I had to move fast, before the conspiracy swallowed us whole, before more lives were lost, before the truth was buried forever. The story I thought I was living was gone, replaced by a nightmare that demanded courage I wasn't sure I had. But giving up wasn't an option. Not now. Not ever. The night was thick with tension as I finally stood face to face with the person who had been pulling the strings all along, the one who had turned my life into a labyrinth of lies and danger. The room felt suffocating, shadows dancing on the walls like the ghosts of secrets long buried, and every word spoken between us carried the weight of years of deception and pain. This wasn't just a confrontation. It was the culmination of everything I'd feared and fought for, the moment when all the fragments of the mystery collided into a blazing truth that demanded reckoning. The villain, someone I once considered a friend, revealed motives darker than I ever imagined, a twisted obsession with control that had led to betrayal, disappearances, and threats designed to silence anyone who dared get close to the truth. Their calm demeanor masked the storm beneath, and as they laid bare the extent of their manipulations, the diary, the fake predictions, even the involvement of my wife's secret twin sister, I realized how deeply I'd been trapped in a web I hadn't even known existed. Every clue, every warning, every moment of doubt had been orchestrated to keep the conspiracy intact, to keep the truth hidden in shadows where it could do no harm. But I wasn't going down without a fight. The air between us crackled with a mixture of rage, betrayal, and desperate hope as I challenged the lies, exposing the cracks in their carefully constructed facade. The battle that followed wasn't just physical, though the tension was palpable, but psychological, a high-stakes war of wills where every word was a weapon and every silence a trap. I could see the flicker of doubt in their eyes, the realization that I was no longer the naive player they thought I was. In that moment, the room seemed to hold its breath as I unveiled the final piece of evidence, a hidden recording, forgotten until now, that laid bare the truth behind the sisters' disappearance and the true purpose of the diary. It was the key that shattered the illusions, exposing the villain's plan to manipulate fate itself by controlling the past and the future through fear and misinformation. The power they sought wasn't just over me or my family, but over the very story of our lives. As the confrontation reached its fevered peak, the villain made one last desperate move, revealing a shocking twist that no one saw coming. The diary itself was a red herring, a carefully planted distraction, hiding an even deeper secret tied directly to me. The man in the photographs wasn't a ghost from the past, but a reflection of a hidden truth about my own identity, one that called into question everything I thought I knew about myself, my family, and the forces that had shaped my life. The final moments were a blur of emotions, betrayal, revelation, fear, and a fierce determination to reclaim the narrative of my life. The villain's carefully spun web began to unravel as I stood firm, fueled by the knowledge that the truth, no matter how dark, was worth fighting for. And just as the dust settled and the pieces clicked into place, leaving the conspiracy exposed, I realized this was not an ending but a beginning, the start of a new chapter where the past's shadows no longer controlled my future. In the quiet aftermath of the storm, as the dust settled and the tangled web of secrets lay exposed, I found myself standing at a crossroads that no one could have predicted. The journey through lies, betrayals, and hidden truths had left scars, some visible, others buried deep within, but it also brought clarity, a fragile peace that settled over me like the soft light of dawn after a long night. I finally understood that the diary, the disappearances, the warnings, and the twisted conspiracy were not just chapters in a story, but pieces of a puzzle about identity, fate, and the power of the past to shape our present in ways we never fully grasp. The man in the photographs, the secret sister, the villain's desperate grip on control, they all fit together to tell a tale that was as much about me as it was about the shadows that tried to consume my family. Though many questions were answered, some threads remained deliberately loose, like echoes in an empty room, hinting at depths yet unexplored. The truth about my identity, now partially unveiled, left me pondering what else lay beneath the surface, what parts of myself and my past were still waiting to be discovered. It was a reminder that life's mysteries don't always come wrapped in neat conclusions. Sometimes they linger in the spaces between the known and the unknown, challenging us to keep searching, questioning, and growing. I realized that peace wasn't about having all the answers, but learning to live with the uncertainties, to embrace the shadows as part of my story without letting them define me. My wife and I began to rebuild, cautiously, and with wounds that time alone could heal. The secret sister's fate, while partially uncovered, remained a haunting presence, a silent call for justice that lingered on the edges of our lives. The conspiracy's fallout rippled through our world, altering relationships and trust, but also forging a stronger bond between us, forged in fire and truth. The diary that once predicted our wedding day before we met became a symbol not of fate controlled by unseen hands, but of the resilience of human connection amid chaos and secrets. As I reflect on this journey, I invite you to hold these questions close. How much of our lives are shaped by secrets we never knew existed? What lengths would you go to uncover the truth, even when it threatens to unravel everything you love? And in a world where shadows often conceal more than they reveal, how do we find the courage to face the unknown? These are not just questions for me, but for all of us navigating the delicate balance between past and future, trust and betrayal, light and darkness.